Hi everyone, I appreciate you joining me for this video and I hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to be talking about federal disaster assistance programs and how to access and manage them. Keep in mind that I'm approaching this from more of a federal perspective, a FEMA perspective, but states are involved in this process and states are now exploring the need for their own disaster relief programs. Our goals today are threefold. First, we want to understand individual assistance and public assistance programs. Second, we need to comprehend how victims and survivors, whether individuals, businesses, or governments, can apply for assistance. And finally, we'll provide some information about National Processing Service Centers, Disaster Recovery Centers, and Joint Field Offices. So here we go. After disaster, victims take care of themselves or often receive help from insurance agencies and charitable organizations. The federal government also has a long history of providing assistance to individuals and businesses, as well as cities, counties, states, tribal governments, and others that have been affected by disasters. Over time, the programs have changed, and they're likely to morph in the future as well. But as of today, there are two different types of federal assistance. Individual assistance is for individuals, families, and businesses impacted by disasters. Public assistance is not for the public at large, but is for public organizations, such as local, state, and tribal jurisdictions. Let's talk about each type to help you understand these federal programs. Under individual assistance, there are three categories: loans and grants, services, and benefits. Let's look at each one in further detail. There are 6 different categories of loans and grants under individual assistance. There are loans for those individuals and families that have lost homes due to disasters. There are loans for businesses to replace structures and equipment that have been damaged. There are loans also available for companies that have experienced financial losses or hardship. Farmers can obtain loans if their crops and equipment have been lost in a disaster. The Individual and Household Program is a grant for those who have experienced damage to homes or were required to live in a hotel during rebuilding. Other Needs Assistance provides funds for the loss of personal property or to help with medical, dental, transportation, or other expenses. Finally, Tax Assistance allows victims to deduct disaster losses when filing their taxes. There are also a variety of government programs to assist disaster victims in other ways. There are programs to provide transportation to the elderly or answer questions about federal relief programs. There are programs to help consumers who have experienced price gouging, fraud, or other problems with goods and services they need. Crisis counseling is available for those who have experienced post-traumatic stress disorder. Emergency Services is a program to reimburse voluntary organizations such as the Red Cross, which provides lots of help to disaster victims. Insurance services are offered to victims who need help settling claims with private insurance companies. Finally, legal counseling is provided for those who have problems relating to contracts, disputes, laws, and lawsuits. In addition to loans, grants, and services, government welfare programs can also help those affected by disasters. Victims may receive food stamps and unemployment assistance after disasters. Social Security is available for those who have experienced disaster-related disabilities, deaths, and those who need survivor benefits. A similar program is also provided to veterans who need assistance after a disaster. In order to obtain individual assistance, victims have various options. First, people can register for assistance online or by making a call to the National Processing Service Center, or NPSC for short. There are 3 NPSCs, one in Texas, one in Virginia, and one in Maryland. Others may be opened on a temporary basis if and as needed. Second, victims may also visit a disaster recovery center. This is a location set up by the affected government. It's typically a large facility where people can go to apply for assistance or seek answers to questions they have about government relief programs. The location should have ample parking, tables and chairs, and general office supplies. In some cases, there can also be mobile disaster recovery centers or even multiple disaster recovery centers for the same disaster. In terms of public assistance, there are two categories. Emergency assistance is for debris removal and other measures to protect lives and property. Permanent assistance is available to replace damaged buildings, lost equipment, or make other repairs to roads and public infrastructure. We'll explore those further now. As mentioned, the federal government has funds available to help with debris removal. This is definitely needed since debris removal is one of the most expensive activities after a disaster. In addition, FEMA provides funding to help implement protective measures like sandbagging to prevent flooding, shoring up buildings damaged by an earthquake, or fencing off dangerous areas. Under the category of permanent assistance, funds may be available to repair roads, levees, and dams. There are also funds to repair government buildings and replace furniture, vehicles, and other property. Relief can also be given to repair water, gas, and sewer systems that are publicly operated. Finally, assistance is also available to parks, airports, and recreational facilities that have been impacted by a disaster. In order to obtain public assistance, emergency managers and other government leaders will meet with state officials and FEMA in a briefing to better understand how FEMA programs work. A kickoff meeting will then take place, and the purpose of this meeting is to introduce the Federal Public Assistance Coordinating Officer, explain how to apply for aid, share appropriate forms, discuss damages and applicant needs, and answer any questions that may arise. In addition, you will be able to address any other pertinent concerns you might have at this point. Then, several forms have to be filled out, and they are noted on this slide. Project worksheets will identify 4 types of projects that affected communities hope will be funded. Small projects are typically paid in advance by the federal government and usually total less than about $66,000. Large projects, in contrast, are funded after the expenses, and they typically cost over $66,000. Improved projects are projects that include repairs beyond the original design of a facility. The goal in this case is to implement mitigation measures to prevent similar losses in the future. Alternative projects are projects that require abandonment of the prior facility, for example, moving a building out of a floodplain. FEMA representatives will review each type of project and verify needs in a damage survey report. In order to help manage federal disaster assistance programs, FEMA will set up a joint field office. A joint field office, or JFO, is the location where FEMA employees review paperwork and process payments. In some cases, state and local government officials will be housed in the JFO to facilitate coordination. But the JFO is typically not announced publicly since disaster victims will obtain relief through the NPSC or the Disaster Recovery Center. Eventually, the JFO will shut down once the disaster has been closed out by FEMA. Now, let me make a very important comment. Federal disaster assistance assumes a federally declared disaster has occurred. Keep in mind, many disasters do not meet this threshold. But nonetheless, and by way of review, there are 2 types of federal disaster assistance programs: individual assistance and public assistance. Victims can access individual assistance through the NPSC and the Disaster Recovery Center, and governments can obtain assistance for public assistance, submitting appropriate paperwork. FEMA and states manage individual and public assistance through the Joint Field Office. If you would like additional information about individual assistance or public assistance and federal disaster relief programs and how they're operated, much of this is addressed in the book which is mentioned on this slide. Well, thanks for joining me. highest regards and best wishes.